Everything started to feel wrong after a video arrived from our senior. In the footage, a dark figure was crouched on the floor. At first, we thought it was some kind of horror game promotion. But when we noticed the familiar guitar in the lower right corner of the screen, we realized it was our senior's apartment. And after that video, his account never came online again. The last message he sent contained only 4 simple words: stock up on supplies. At 3 in the morning, my roommates and I were still awake, grinding through another gaming session. Right in the middle of the most intense team fight, a notification popped up in the corner of the screen. It was a video call from our senior. Watch it later. Let's finish this match first. The call disconnected almost immediately. Then another video arrived. Our dorm leader froze for a second and pulled off his headphones. Something's not right. I glanced at the thumbnail. It was almost completely dark, but there seemed to be something moving inside the frame. Our senior never sent things like this. He was a graduate student in computer science. His entire life revolved around coding and gaming. Pause. We all stopped what we were doing. The dorm leader opened the video. The footage shook violently, as if it had been recorded in complete panic. The room was dark. The only illumination came from a television screen. One figure was on top of another. The sound of frantic biting echoed through the speakers, mixed with wet chewing noises. What the hell kind of game is this? Our second roommate slowly lowered his bag of chips. The graphics are insanely realistic. The fourth roommate adjusted his glasses, probably made with Unreal Engine, but I kept staring at the screen. A chill crawled up my spine. The camera continued shaking. Then, for a brief moment, I saw something hanging on the wall. It was a banner. The banner from our university's information security competition. This is his place. The dorm leader rewound the footage and examined it frame by frame. No doubt about it. The banner on the wall, the blanket on the sofa, the familiar guitar in the corner. This was our senior's living room. We had eaten dinner there just last month. In the final seconds of the video, the camera flipped around. Our senior's face appeared on screen. Then everything went black. The dorm room became so quiet that we could hear each other breathing. Don't panic. Maybe it's just a prank. But the chips in my hand had already been crushed to pieces. I immediately sent him a message. Unread. I called him. No answer. I checked his gaming status. His last online time was 10 minutes ago. Exactly when he sent the video. Check the group chat. He had also posted the video in our alumni group, but it had been withdrawn almost immediately. Only one message remained. Stock up on supplies. No explanation. No follow-up. What the hell is going on? Our second roommate stood up and paced around the cramped dorm room. I opened my browser and searched for news. Nothing. Social media looked completely normal. People were still discussing final exams and summer vacation plans. Then our fourth roommate noticed something strange. Look at this. He opened a technical forum. Scattered posts were appearing. Does anyone know what's happening in City A? My cousin disappeared last night. Students from University B have gone missing. The school is covering it up. None of the posts stayed online for long. They quickly turned into 404 errors. The cleanup system has started. Our fourth roommate frowned. Someone is deleting specific information. The dorm leader and I exchanged glances. If there had been any room left for optimism before, there wasn't anymore. Should we start stocking supplies? Come on. Our second roommate laughed. You actually believe this? What if it's just a horror short film he made? But even his laughter sounded forced. The dorm leader remained silent for a moment. Then why did he send it only to us? Everyone looked at each other. We were close to our senior, but not close enough for private warnings. Unless he believed we would actually listen. Our fourth roommate voiced exactly what I was thinking. Because we're all hardcore gamers. We had watched countless zombie movies, played countless survival games. If the end of the world really arrived, we might be among the first people to react. Screw it. Real or not, let's prepare. Prepare what? Our second roommate still looked doubtful. Materials. I opened my notes app. Food, water, medicine, tools, and a location. We need somewhere safe. The observatory. The university observatory sat on the top floor of an academic building. Almost nobody ever went there. The key belonged to the astronomy club president, and he had gone home last week. The spare key was in the security office. Fortunately, old Zhang usually fell asleep during night shifts. We split up. Fang Shu and number 2 go buy supplies. Number 4 researches everything he can find. I'll get the key. Wait, I stopped them. If this is real, we're seriously doing this. What if it's all a misunderstanding? The dorm leader looked straight at me. His expression was completely serious. I'd rather prepare for something that doesn't happen than ignore something that does. If we're wrong, we waste a little money." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. We all understood. If this was real, it might be our only chance to survive. 3:52 a.m. More than 2 hours remained until sunrise. The dormitory building slept peacefully. Nobody knew that 4 gaming addicts were preparing for a possible apocalypse. Meet at the observatory in 15 minutes. Only buy long-lasting essentials. And don't alert anyone. We nodded. No one spoke. But deep down, we all prayed for the same thing. That this was only a prank. That everything would return to normal after sunrise. Yet the video kept replaying in my mind. The broken guitar, and the terror in our senior's eyes. I pushed open the dormitory door. The lights in the hallway flickered on and off as if the voltage was unstable. A strange smell lingered in the air. I couldn't quite identify it. Maybe someone's takeout had gone bad. Maybe. At 3:30 in the morning, while the entire dormitory slept, our first supply run began. 4:03 a.m. The rolling shutter of the convenience store near the south gate was half open. The owner was asleep behind the counter. The fluorescent lights buzzed loudly overhead, flickering non-stop. "Boss," I nudged him. He jerked awake, a strand of drool stretched from the corner of his mouth. "Huh? What do you need?" "Chocolate, beef jerky, compressed biscuits, anything with a long shelf life." "So, late at night? You guys going camping?" "Military training exercise. Our instructor just notified us." It was a terrible excuse, but the owner didn't care enough to question it. Yawning, he pointed toward the shelves. "Help yourselves." I pushed a shopping cart rapidly through the aisles. High cocoa chocolate for calories. Vacuum-sealed beef jerky for longevity. Compressed biscuits, disgusting but efficient. One piece could replace an entire meal. Salt. The dorm leader had been right. Salt wasn't just seasoning. It could also be used for preservation and sanitation. I grabbed 10 bags and tossed them into the cart. Lighters. I remembered every survival game I'd ever played. Fire was essential. 3 boxes of lighters, 5 flashlights, extra batteries. Like a man possessed, I searched every shelf from top to bottom. Even the forgotten clearance stock hidden underneath. Most of it still had more than a year before expiration. "Why are you buying so much?" The owner was finally awake enough to notice. His eyes narrowed at our overflowing cart. 4 classes are doing field training together. I made up another excuse. The payment screen displayed $3,247.01. Nearly 2 months of living expenses. But this wasn't the time to worry about money. Wait, the owner suddenly stopped us. "Did something happen recently?" My heart tightened. Someone else came yesterday and bought a huge amount of supplies, too. Didn't recognize the accent, definitely from out of town. Bought a ton of canned food. Food with one of the longest shelf lives. Apparently, we weren't the only ones who had received a warning. "Do you have a first aid kit?" "Yeah, in the storage room." The owner stood up. "What do you need that for?" "Heat stroke prevention." The smell became stronger inside the storage room, that strange odor, like something decaying. The owner frowned. "Damn rats." Another one must have died somewhere. The first aid kit was covered in dust. I checked the contents. Basic medicine, bandages, disinfectant, gauze, a few boxes of expired cold medicine. Expired by 6 months. Close enough. "We'll take that too." Then I pointed toward a military-style shovel in the corner. "I want that." "For self-defense?" The owner hesitated. 200. I named a price. Deal. As we pushed the cart back toward campus, our second roommate lowered his voice. "You really believe all this?" "You don't?" He stayed silent. The dorm next door was still gaming. People outside were still eating barbecue. If something this big was happening, everything wouldn't be so calm. "The city center is 20 kilometers away," I reminded him. "Information takes time to spread." "But nothing's online." "Exactly. And that's what scares me. If the 4G towers go down, the 3G network might still work." Typical tech nerd thinking. He was already planning farther ahead than the rest of us. And there's this. He opened another folder. Inside was a massive collection of information related to the North District. Twitter, Facebook, even data scraped from obscure corners of the internet. Did you find anything? His expression darkened. Every piece of information from the North District has been suppressed since 11 o'clock last night. Then he opened a screenshot. A post from Twitter. Timestamp. 1 a.m. Run. They've all gone crazy. The attached image was blurry, clearly taken while someone was running. And this. Another screenshot. An anonymous forum post. An unknown illness has broken out at North District Hospital. Patients have become extremely aggressive. Good luck to everyone. A chill crawled down my spine. Why hasn't the mainstream media reported any of this? What do you think? Number 4 let out a bitter laugh. Panic spreads faster than any virus. The download bar finally reached 100%. He quickly pulled out the USB drive and inserted another device, an industrial-grade wireless network card. The signal can cover 2 kilometers. You prepared all this beforehand? I'm in the same hometown group chat as our senior. He adjusted his glasses. The moment I saw his message, I knew something was wrong. We hurried out of the internet cafe. By then, daylight had fully arrived. Breakfast stalls were opening. The smell of food filled the streets. Everything looked completely normal, far too normal. Fang Shu, number 4, suddenly grabbed my arm. Look over there. At the university entrance, several police vehicles were parked outside. Uniformed personnel were speaking with the security guards. Every face looked serious. Let's use the side entrance. I pulled him away. The side gate was normally locked, but there was a gap in the fence that every student knew about. The moment we squeezed through it, a broadcast echoed across campus. Attention, all students. Due to equipment maintenance, the university will experience a temporary power outage from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Please make the necessary preparations. Another power outage. We ran all the way back to the observatory. The dorm leader visibly relaxed when he saw us. Finally, you're back. How's it looking outside? Not good. We told them everything. Number 2 still refused to accept it. It's just a power outage. Power outages don't require that many uniformed officers. Number 4 corrected himself carefully. The dorm leader checked his phone. 7:40. He suddenly stood up. 20 minutes. What? 20 minutes until the power goes out. If this is really happening, we need to move. The next 20 minutes felt like a frenzy. Every device that could hold a charge was plugged in. Every container that could hold water was filled. Every piece of equipment was checked again. Blankets. Number 4 suddenly spoke. It'll get cold at night. Where are we supposed to get blankets? Gym mats. Number 2 slapped his forehead. The equipment room. He and the dorm leader immediately ran off. Number 4 and I stayed behind. The observatory wasn't large, but it was enough for 4 people. We covered the windows with newspaper, leaving only a narrow slit for observation. At 7:55, the others returned carrying gym mats and plenty of extra items. Jump ropes, dumbbells, even a few soccer balls. No one really knew what the soccer balls would be useful for. The final 5 minutes ticked away. We sat in a circle on the floor. No one spoke. The atmosphere felt as heavy as the sea before a storm. If this really is the apocalypse, what's your biggest regret? I never had a girlfriend. Number 4 answered first. I never finished some of my games. My turn. I never got to go home. Number 2 laughed. My biggest regret is that I didn't finish my instant noodles last night. We all laughed. It didn't last long, but it pushed back some of the fear. Exactly at 8 o'clock, the lights went out. Not just in the observatory, the entire academic building fell into darkness. Complaints immediately erupted outside. Students cursed the university. But we knew this wasn't an ordinary blackout. The radio. Number 4 switched on the emergency radio we had prepared. Amid the static, a voice emerged. Citizens are advised to remain calm and cooperate with the relevant authorities. Standard official language. But the more reassuring it sounded, the more serious the situation felt. I carefully lifted a corner of the newspaper covering the window. Students were gathering below, whispering, making phone calls. Their expressions slowly changed from confusion to fear. The network still works. The dorm leader checked his phone. But it's incredibly slow. The towers are overloaded. Number 4 analyzed immediately. Everyone is trying to get information. I refreshed social media. Everything lagged. Most posts were asking about the blackout. Nothing more. Then a scream shattered the morning, far away, yet unmistakably clear, the kind of scream born from absolute terror. We exchanged looks. Another scream followed. This one was closer. At 6:03 in the morning, a heartbreaking cry tore through the dawn. I snapped awake, my heart hammered against my ribs. Everyone inside the observatory classroom woke up as well. The dorm leader had been on watch all night. His face was pale, his voice barely above a whisper. The second scream was closer. It sounded like it came from the dormitory area. Then came chaotic footsteps, objects crashing, and animal-like growls. We jumped into action. Everyone moved to their positions. Number 2, check the doors and windows. Fang Shu, rooftop with me. The first light of morning was spreading across the campus. Normally, students would already be jogging on the athletic field. The cafeteria would be filled with the smell of soy milk. But today, the entire campus was wrapped in something unnatural. No, the dorm leader pointed toward the dormitory buildings. It isn't quiet. Glass shattered, one after another. People screamed, others cried for help. Heavy impacts slammed against doors. On the 3rd floor of dormitory building 5, a student leaned halfway out a window, desperately waving for help. Then something yanked him back inside. Damn it. The curse escaped before I could stop it. More lights switched on. More figures appeared behind windows. But one by one, those lights disappeared. Stop looking. The dorm leader pulled me back. We need to confirm number 4's situation. Only then did I remember. Number 4 had gone to the laboratory the previous night to finish calibrating equipment. He still hadn't returned. His phone was off. The last location showed the laboratory building. Through the window, we could see it clearly, less than 200 meters away. But those 200 meters might as well have been the distance between life and death. I'm going. I grabbed the equipment I had prepared, a thick jacket, work pants, running shoes. The protective gear number 2 had taken from the sports equipment room finally became useful. Knee pads, elbow pads, a motorcycle helmet. I'm coming with you. Number 2 stood up. No, the dorm leader stopped him. More people mean a bigger target. Fang Shu is fast. He'll have a better chance alone. I knew he was right, but number 2 clearly hated it. 15 minutes. The dorm leader stared at me. 15 minutes. Whether you find him or not, you come back. Understood. I tucked a Swiss Army knife into my belt and grabbed a canister of pepper spray. After taking a deep breath, I pushed open the door. The hallway was unnaturally silent. The green glow of the emergency lights made everything feel unreal. I moved along the wall, slow, careful, every step deliberate. The stairwell echoed only with my own breathing. 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. Everything seemed normal, too normal. That was what made it terrifying. The moment I pushed open the laboratory building's fire door, the sharp smell of disinfectant hit me. But beneath it was another scent, a metallic scent, the smell of blood. At the far end of the hallway, a laboratory door hung slightly open. Dark stains stretched across the floor and disappeared inside. Number 4. I lowered my voice. No response. I pushed open the door. The laboratory was a disaster. Equipment lay overturned. Glass fragments covered the floor. Number 4's backpack sat on a table. Beside it was the unfinished device he had been building. Where is he? A faint sound came from the storage room. I tightened my grip on the knife and approached slowly. Light leaked through the crack beneath the door. So did rapid breathing. It's me, Fang Shu. Get in here. It was number four's voice. I pushed the door open. He was crouched in the corner. His face was pale. Blood seeped through a rough bandage wrapped around his left arm. What happened? Professor Chen. His entire body trembled. Professor Chen was working late last night. I thought everything was fine. But then, he changed. He wasn't himself anymore. His voice cracked. He rushed at me. He tried to bite me. His eyes were completely white. The scene from the video had become reality, the infected. Can you walk? Yeah. I helped him stand. He staggered, but managed to stay upright. Wait. He struggled back toward the desk and grabbed the unfinished device. We have to take this. What is it? A signal interceptor. He was breathing heavily. It can capture all wireless communications, even military frequencies. I stopped asking questions. I grabbed his backpack. We were about to leave when a sound echoed through the hallway. Not footsteps. Dragging, like someone scraping their feet along the floor. Accompanied by heavy breathing. Number 4 and I exchanged a look. The storage room had only one exit. The sound drew closer. Through the crack in the door, I saw a figure enter the laboratory. A white lab coat, covered in blood, messy hair, a body tilted at an unnatural angle. It was Professor Chen, or what remained of him. He wandered through the laboratory, knocking over equipment. Then suddenly he stopped. His nose twitched, as if he had caught a scent. Slowly he turned toward the storage room. Weapon? I whispered. Number 4 pointed toward a shelf. Several chemical bottles sat there. Sulfuric acid. I carefully picked one up, knife in one hand, bottle in the other. The doorknob began to turn. 1 second, 2 seconds. The door exploded inward. Professor Chen lunged through the opening. A guttural roar escaped his throat. For the first time, I saw his face clearly. Gray, unhealthy skin, bloodshot eyes, strange fluid hanging from the corners of his mouth. I threw the acid. A violent chemical reaction filled the cramped space with sharp fumes. Professor Chen screamed. An awful, desperate sound. Clutching his face, he stumbled backward. Go! I grabbed number 4 and rushed out. Professor Chen writhed on the floor, but moments later, he pushed himself up again. Even after suffering severe injuries, he continued stumbling after us. This way, we charged into the stairwell. Number 4's legs were failing. I practically dragged him downstairs. The growls behind us grew closer. Second floor, first floor. The exit was in sight. Then we saw them. More figures outside. 3. No, 5. Wandering across the open ground. Their movements were stiff, but not slow. One wore a security uniform. The radio on his belt still crackled with static. The window. Number 4 pointed sideways. The first floor window wasn't high. I boosted him up. He struggled through. I was about to follow when the stairwell door slammed open. Professor Chen had caught up. Too close, I grabbed a chair and hurled it. The impact slowed him for a split second, long enough. I dove through the window. Outside, the infected immediately reacted to the noise. They started converging on us. Over here. The dorm leader's voice echoed across the courtyard. He and number 2 appeared in the distance. Something arced through the air. A bottle. It shattered among the infected. Flames erupted instantly. The burning liquid spread across the ground. The infected recoiled instinctively, as if they still feared fire. That brief hesitation gave us our chance. We ran. Toward the observatory. 200 meters had never felt so long. I could hear pursuit behind us. Feel danger closing in. Number 4's injury slowed us down. I practically carried him. 100 meters. 50. Move. The dorm leader and number 2 waited at the entrance. We burst inside. They slammed the doors shut and locked them. Boom, boom, boom. The infected crashed against the entrance. The entire door trembled, but it held. We collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. You guys... I looked at the remaining bottles in the dorm leader's hands. Prepared them last night. He wiped sweat from his forehead. Alcohol and detergent. Improvised. Number 4's wound needed treatment. We helped him into the preparation room. The injury wasn't deep. More of a scratch than a bite. The transmission method, Number 4 whispered weakly. If it's really a virus, don't talk. I wrapped fresh bandages around his arm. Rest. Outside, screams echoed endlessly. The entire campus had fallen into chaos. Look. Number 2 pointed into the distance. Black smoke was rising from the dormitory district. Someone had started a fire, or maybe the disaster itself had. More figures wandered between buildings. Some still wore pajamas. People who had clearly been infected only hours earlier. We made the right choice. The dorm leader spoke quietly. If we'd stayed in the dorms... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Phone signals still existed, but the connection was unstable. My parents were flooding the family group chat with messages. I'm safe. I'm somewhere secure. Don't go outside. The message barely sent before the signal disappeared. Communications were beginning to collapse. Number 4 lay on a makeshift bed. Next comes electricity. And after that, he stopped speaking. But we all understood. Society itself was falling apart. And this was only the beginning. The apocalypse had truly arrived. By the 3rd day, we had established a fragile routine. The observatory classroom became our shelter. The dorm leader enforced strict schedules. 2 people on watch during the day, 2 resting. Everyone alert at night. Food was rationed, water was rationed. Most importantly, stay quiet. They react to sound. That lesson had cost people their lives. The day before, someone in the opposite dormitory building had screamed for help. 7 or 8 infected arrived almost immediately. That entire building had fallen since then. Number 4's injury was improving. Most of his attention had shifted to the signal interceptor. Now information was pouring in. Eastern District lost, requesting support. Infected numbers exceed projections. Evacuation plan initiated. Rough fragments of communication revealed the truth. It wasn't just our university. The entire city was collapsing. Serum, Number 4 suddenly said. I intercepted an encrypted message. It mentioned serum testing. Where? The City Disease Control Center. Preliminary trials. Positive results. For the first time in days, hope appeared. A tiny spark inside overwhelming darkness. But the Disease Control Center was on the opposite side of the city. Under current conditions, it felt impossible. Let's survive first. The dorm leader remained practical. But on the morning of the 5th day, everything changed. I woke up from my watch shift as usual, and found the dorm leader curled up in a corner, shivering. Dorm leader. He looked up. His eyes seemed unfocused. I don't feel so good. My heart dropped. When did it start? Last night. Maybe earlier. We checked his body. No obvious bites, no scratches. But on his lower leg was a swollen bump. It looked exactly like a mosquito bite. Mosquito. Number 2's face turned pale. The room fell silent, deathly silent. All of us realized the same thing. The virus didn't spread only through bites. Mosquitoes, the insects that were everywhere, they were carriers too. Quarantine me. The dorm leader's voice was weak, but firm. Lock me in the storage room. No, Number 2 exploded. It's the only way. The dorm leader struggled to his feet. I can feel it. It feels like my body is on fire. We had no choice. The storage room was converted into a temporary isolation chamber. We left food and water outside the door. The dorm leader walked inside on his own. Then he locked the door behind him. His final words were simple. Use chains. Use anything you can find. The moment the lock clicked shut, my hands started shaking. The next 12 hours were torture. We could hear groans coming from inside, heavy impacts against the door, and growls that sounded less and less human. Several times, Number 2 tried to open the door. Each time, we stopped him. He doesn't want to become one of those things. Number 4's eyes were red. This was his choice. Then something hit me. Number 2 had been responsible for night patrols on the rooftop. That rooftop covered in overgrown weeds. It's all my fault. He punched the wall. If I'd cleared those weeds earlier. But it was too late for regrets. The serum, Number 2 spoke between breaths. We need the serum. There's still a chance. Number 4 and I exchanged glances. The City Disease Control Center. A journey through a fallen city. What were our chances? Looking at the locked storage room door, we knew there was no turning back. That night, we began preparing. According to the map, the shortest route to the Disease Control Center was 15 kilometers. Traveling on foot while avoiding infected zones would take at least 2 days. Protection came first. We sealed every gap in our clothing with tape, especially around sleeves and pant legs. Weapons were next. In addition to knives, we prepared several improvised firebombs. Communication. Number 4 tuned the radios to a specific frequency. This channel is still active. Food and water, only enough for 3 days. The lightest load possible. Before leaving, I went to see the dorm leader. He threw himself against the door, snarling. Sometimes his eyes seemed clear, other times completely lost. We'll come back. I said it quietly. At 4 in the morning, we prepared to leave. The moment we pushed open the observatory door, we stepped into an unfamiliar world. The campus we once knew had become a nightmare. Broken glass covered the ground. Bicycles lay overturned. There were things scattered across the streets that I deliberately refused to examine too closely. Fires burned in the distance. Dark figures wandered nearby. Remember, I checked my gear one final time. No matter what happens, survival comes first. Number 4 nodded and adjusted his signature glasses. Then the 3 of us stepped into the darkness of the apocalypse. For our friend. For that tiny thread of hope. Even knowing it might be a one-way journey. The hours before dawn were the hardest. We moved through the shadows of buildings. Every step felt like walking across thin ice. Number 4 navigated using his phone. I covered the rear. The south gate was the nearest exit. It was also the most dangerous. Before everything collapsed, it had been the busiest part of campus. Wait. Number 4 suddenly crouched. In the small plaza ahead, more than a dozen infected wandered beneath the moonlight. Their twisted silhouettes moved with unnatural motions. Several still wore school uniforms. Students infected only the day before. We go around. Number 2 immediately pulled us back. We chose a longer but safer route, through academic buildings, around the library, avoiding the cafeteria. Every familiar place had become unrecognizable. The library's glass entrance had shattered. The interior was swallowed by darkness. As we passed, I caught sight of movement between the bookshelves. Don't look. Keep moving. Eventually we reached the perimeter wall. An old side gate stood there, usually locked, but Number 2 had studied the lock mechanism long ago. Give me 3 minutes. He pulled out his tools. I stood watch. 1 minute. 2. Click. Done. The gate swung open. Beyond it lay the real city. If the university still retained a trace of order, the city had none at all. Cars littered the streets at every angle. Some stood abandoned with doors wide open. Others had crashed into each other. Streetlights flickered weakly before finally dying out. The air was thick with smoke, dust, and decay. Masks on. At least they'll filter some of it. We followed our planned route. The once crowded commercial district now resembled a ghost town. Most storefront shutters had been forced open. The interiors were stripped bare. Someone was here. Number 4 pointed at the ground. Recently. Survivors. The discovery made us feel both relieved and uneasy. After walking roughly 2 kilometers, the sky began to brighten. We needed shelter. Traveling during daylight was too dangerous. The infected seemed more alert in the light. There, I pointed toward an office building. A 3rd-floor office became our temporary refuge. The door was sturdy. The windows remained intact. We took turns resting while observing the streets below. Daylight revealed a horrifying reality. There were far more infected than we had imagined. They wandered aimlessly, sometimes gathering together, sometimes drifting apart again. A few even retained traces of old habits. I watched one infected man in a business suit standing at a bus stop. The sign had already collapsed, yet he remained there, still waiting. Look. Number 4 handed me a pair of binoculars. Several blocks away, a small group was moving quickly through the streets. They were organized, equipped, disciplined. Government personnel, I asked. Number 4 shook his head. Their equipment doesn't match. Survivors. Apparently we weren't the only ones searching for answers. Around noon, the radio suddenly crackled to life. Is anyone there? Please respond. The signal was weak, broken, intermittent. Should we answer? Number 4 looked at me. I hesitated. Broadcasting our position carried risks, but finally I pressed the transmit button. This is Fang Shu. Who are you? The voice returned. Survivors. Trapped in the art museum. We need help. The museum wasn't far away, but it wasn't on our route. How many? 2. A husband and wife. Then the voice faltered. A child. Emotion tightened his throat. I switched off the radio. Number 2 and number 4 both looked at me. No. Number 2 answered immediately. We have our own mission. He was right, but the despair in that voice lingered. Number 4 slowly nodded. Keep moving. In the end, I agreed. At 4 in the afternoon, we resumed our journey. We bypassed 2 major clusters of infected, crossed through a residential district. Progress was slower than expected. At this pace, reaching the disease control center might take 3 days. Can the dorm leader survive that long? 2 days passed. We had covered only 5 kilometers. The sun softened the asphalt beneath our feet. Each step left faint impressions. The heat curled our toes inside our shoes. For a moment, I stared at my shadow. Summer afternoons used to look exactly like this. Back then, noisy classmates surrounded me. Now there were only the footsteps of number 2 and number 4 echoing across empty roads. The infected drifted beneath distant building shadows. I tried not to stare, yet my eyes kept returning to them. Their damaged skin glistened beneath the sunlight. Their movements were half as fast as they had been at night. Yet they continued endlessly, like wind-up puppets, never stopping. Strange. They're falling apart. But they're still walking. How much farther? Number 4's voice sounded rough. I glanced at the bandage on his arm. Dark stains had spread across half his forearm. The wound came from the old man at the convenience store. The memory flashed through my mind. The elderly man crouched behind the shelves, his back bent almost double. When we offered him water, his hand shook like leaves in autumn. Who could have guessed that the moment number 4 placed a compressed biscuit in front of him, the old man would lunge forward with a broken beer bottle. The sound of glass cutting flesh had been soft, like tearing plastic. But the hatred behind the attack had been unmistakable. He hadn't wanted food. He had simply wanted company in his misery. We're almost at the overpass. I tried to keep my voice steady. My eyes drifted toward number 2. He was staring blankly at an overturned ice cream truck, melted cream mixed with dark mud beneath it. Then it happened. A chorus of growls erupted from a nearby alley. Not 1, not 2. A whole group. Every hair on my body stood up. Dark figures poured around the corner, limbs twisted at impossible angles. Harsh breathing rattled from their throats. Run, I shouted, grabbing number 4's arm. We sprinted. He stumbled. The wound must have hurt terribly, but stopping wasn't an option. The growls behind us grew louder. I could hear number 2 running close behind. His footsteps were always heavy, like he wanted the whole world to know he was there. I don't know how long we ran, only that eventually my lungs felt filled with fire. We turned into a narrow alley and collapsed behind cover, leaning against the cold wall, trying to breathe. Only then did I realize something was wrong. Number 4 was beside me. Number 2 wasn't. The foul wind drifting through the alley carried the smell of rot. I stared into the empty darkness. My heart tightened. How had he fallen behind? I had seen him right behind us. Had he tripped? Had something grabbed him? I couldn't force myself to continue that thought. Number 4 leaned against the wall and coughed violently. Every cough sounded painful. Suddenly I remembered the dorm leader. The day we locked him in the storage room. He had coughed exactly like this. An abandoned bank ATM enclosure became our temporary shelter. We locked the metal door from the inside. I pulled out my knife and cut away number 4's bandage. The wound had turned black around the edges. It's beyond treating. He laughed weakly, every trace of the hope gone from the sound. Forget about me. Find the serum. Or, shut up. I slapped him. The sound bounced around the tiny enclosure. Immediately, I regretted it. He was already suffering, but I couldn't stop myself. If he kept talking like that, I felt like I would break too. We came out here for number 2, for the dorm leader. I stared into his eyes, forcing my voice to remain firm. We're only halfway there. You don't get to give up. My finger pointed toward the wound, even my hand was shaking. Even if you change, we'll find the serum. We'll bring you back. For a moment he froze, then a tiny spark returned to his eyes, like a candle about to die suddenly catching a breath of wind. I tore a strip from my own shirt and wrapped the wound again. The moment the cloth touched his skin, I felt the heat. He was burning up. Fever. That frightened me more than the darkened wound. We didn't even have fever medicine. After finishing the bandage, I leaned against the cold ATM machine, staring at the sunlight outside. I used to complain that summer lasted forever. Now I wish the sun would never set. Because when darkness came, those things became active again. Number 4 rested against the wall with his eyes closed. His breathing remained heavy. I felt the half-used candle in my pocket, taken from a convenience store, originally saved for nighttime. Now I found myself thinking differently. Maybe we should keep moving while daylight remained. Even another 100 meters mattered. 100 meters closer to safety. 100 meters closer to number 2. I tightened my grip on the knife. Sweat made the handle slippery. Let's go. We can't stop. If we stop, it's over. The farther north we traveled, the more infected we encountered. Eventually we had no choice but to find shelter again. Supporting number 4, I guided him deeper into another building. Our shoes crushed scattered paper across the floor. The soft rustling seemed deafening. Every sound felt dangerous now. Anyone here? I called softly. My voice echoed through the empty lobby. Then something moved behind the reception desk. A figure suddenly stiffened. A girl. She sat curled beneath the counter with her knees hugged to her chest. Dried mud stained her exposed calves. Her fingers twisted nervously at the edge of an ivory-colored blouse. The fabric looked expensive. An employee badge swung against her chest. Administrative assistant. The photograph showed a woman with a low ponytail and a small dimple when she smiled. Don't shout. Her voice trembled. Her eyes darted between me and number 4, then settled on the blood-soaked bandage. Her pupils contracted. You're not one of them? I ignored the question, pointing toward number 4's arm. Is there a pharmacy nearby? He's burning up. She bit her lip, then glanced through the glass entrance. Across the street. A 24-hour pharmacy. But yesterday afternoon, I saw 3 of them standing inside. They haven't moved. After a pause, she shifted aside, revealing an emergency exit sign behind her. Take the fire stairs. Go through the back alley. You can reach the pharmacy's rear entrance. The lock is rusted. One kick should open it. I stared at her for several seconds. This building had likely been surrounded for days. If she was still alive, she was either incredibly lucky or far smarter than she looked. Why haven't you left? I'm waiting for a message. She lowered her head. Her fingers brushed the photo on her employee badge, across the dimple in her picture. My boss said someone would come get me. Her voice became softer. until it was barely a whisper. I couldn't decide whether she was extraordinarily fortunate or unbelievably naive. The world had already ended, and she still trusted her boss. Forget it. We need to move. I helped number 4 past her. After a moment of thought, she nodded, then stepped ahead of us, leading the way. As we descended the fire stairs, rust from the handrails stained our palms. Number 4's breathing grew heavier with every floor. More and more of his weight settled onto my shoulder. His skin felt scorching hot, like touching a heated iron plate. If we didn't find medicine soon, the fever would defeat him before the infection did. The woman moved lightly ahead of us, yet somehow always avoided loose steps before they could creak. When we reached the second-floor landing, she stopped, pointing through the window. That's my apartment. A 6th-floor unit across the street. A single light still glowed behind partially drawn curtains. A crooked sofa was visible inside. The lights were on the night before last. They went dark yesterday. Her voice was quiet. Guess they didn't make it. I said nothing. Comfort felt meaningless now. On the evening of the 3rd day, we rested inside a baby supply store. Number 4 had started talking nonsense, holding a stuffed bear, muttering that it contained serum. The woman checked his temperature using a thermometer she found inside. Her hand shook while reading it. 39.7 degrees Celsius. At this rate, brain damage would come soon. Outside, darkness slowly descended. The growls of the infected faded into the distance. I stared across the street. At the 24-hour pharmacy, its illuminated red sign cast trembling reflections across the pavement. I'll draw them away. The words left my mouth before I fully considered them. The woman immediately looked up. Are you insane? There are at least 7 of them out there. We don't have another choice. I cut her off. My eyes settled on a shared bicycle lying beside a patch of landscaping. The handlebars were twisted toward the pharmacy. You take him through the back alley. I'll lead them toward the construction market in the east. There are enough alleys there for me to lose them. She opened her mouth to argue, but I was already pulling on the military coat. The heavy canvas brushed against my neck, carrying the faint smell of mothballs. We had found it inside old Lee's storage room. At the time, it felt like useless weight. Now it might save my life. See that red water tower? I pointed toward the horizon. The sun was sinking behind it. 1 hour. No matter what happens. If anyone doesn't arrive, wait there for 3 hours. The moment I climbed onto the bicycle, rust stained my pants. A dark reddish mark spread across the fabric. I took a deep breath, then pressed the bell. Ding. The sharp sound cut through the silence. Across the street, the infected standing outside the pharmacy suddenly moved. He slowly turned his head. I pushed the pedals and shot forward. From the corner of my eye, I saw Gu Ran helping Lao Si slip into an alley. The stone hanging in my heart finally dropped halfway. Wind poured into the collar of my military coat, the thick fabric trapping heat against my body. My back was soaked in seconds. The zombies followed behind, their footsteps dragging like wet rags, slow yet relentless. At the intersection ahead, I suddenly slammed the brakes. The road was blocked. Dozens of wrecked vehicles were piled into a metal hill. On top, half a bus hung off the guardrail. Inside, a zombie in a suit was still mechanically slamming its head against the glass, producing dull thuds. There was no way through. I lifted my bicycle and climbed onto the wreckage. The hem of my coat got caught on a truck's side mirror. I yanked hard, almost pulled myself down. Looking down, I saw a zombie climbing up the truck tire beneath me, fingers digging into the wheel hub, black dried sludge under its nails. My heart hammered like it was about to break my ribs. I climbed faster, hands and feet working together. The bicycle frame pressed painfully against my waist. When I reached the top, that zombie was already close to my heel, jaws opening and closing, yellow-black teeth exposed. Get lost. I kicked it square in the chest. It fell like a broken sack, crashing onto the car below. I passed through the wreckage, my legs sliced by broken glass. Wind burned into the wound. I looked back. Half the zombies had been left behind, stuck between the cars. But the leading one was still coming. Even with one broken leg, it crawled faster than a normal walk. By the time I reached the water tower area, night had fully fallen. Streetlights were mostly broken. Only a flickering billboard lit the street, stretching shadows unevenly. My coat felt like a furnace. Sweat blurred my vision. Then, my bike chain snapped. I staggered forward on foot. Behind me, the dragging footsteps grew louder. 10 meters, then 5. I threw the bike away and stumbled toward the tower. And then I saw them. Gu Ran and Lao Si were hiding in the shadows. Xing? Gu Ran started to speak, but his voice turned into a sharp gasp. I turned back. The broken-legged zombie was already less than 5 meters away. And from every alley around us, more roars erupted. We hadn't escaped them. We had gathered them. My vision darkened. My body felt unbearably heavy. I tried to shout for Gu Ran to run, but no sound came out. The last thing I saw before collapsing was Gu Ran rushing toward me, and that crawling zombie closing in. Everything faded. When I woke up again, the first thing I smelled was iodine. Lao Si sat across from me. His bandages were clean now, his face still pale but much clearer. Relief flashed in his eyes when he saw I was awake. But something was wrong. My wrists were tied behind my back with rough hemp rope biting into my skin. Pain made me suck in a sharp breath. "You're awake." 3 men stood in the corner. The leader had a beard and was playing with a switchblade. Our supplies were scattered at their feet. Their eyes lingered on Gu Ran like prey. "Who are you?" I asked casually, though my mind was racing. We were in trouble. Direct fight, no chance. We were meat on a chopping board. "Throw the girl to us. You won't survive anyway," the bearded man said. I pretended to hesitate, then pointed at Gu Ran. "He's been scratched. Might turn soon." Then I coughed weakly, signaling Lao Si. He immediately played along, shaking like he was terrified. The bearded man grunted. "Drag him to the pit. He can be bait." So that was it. Bait. They threw me into an abandoned warehouse. A deep pit sat in the corner, bones scattered around it. I started grinding the rope against the wall. Pain burned through my wrists, but I couldn't stop. Time passed. Finally, the rope snapped. I just reached the door when it opened. A guard stood there, blinded by light. Before he could react, a man behind him smashed his head with a brick. It was Lao Er. "We move now," he whispered. Gu Ran and Lao Si were nearby. They had escaped on their own, too. Lao Er had infiltrated this group and been waiting for a chance to rescue us. We regrouped and moved, but the enemy was already coming. Chaos exploded. We stole a forklift and rammed through the warehouse exit. Zombies were drawn in by the noise. One after another, they surrounded us. "Sit tight," I shouted, turning the wheel. The forklift slammed into the nearest zombie. Lao Si smashed another with a fire extinguisher. Lao Er lit improvised explosives. "Run!" We rushed into a narrow alley. Then, boom! The warehouse exploded behind us, fire and debris lighting the night sky. But we weren't safe yet. Zombies blocked the stairway ahead. We fought through them, climbing to the rooftop and locking the iron door behind us. Heavy banging started immediately. But now, humans were chasing us too. The bearded man's group had followed. We were trapped between two horrors. Then Lao Er pointed at the sky. "Something's coming." A low roar grew louder. A helicopter. Gunfire followed moments later. A military rescue unit. Zombies fell instantly under suppressive fire. The rooftop was cleared in seconds. Wind from the rotor slammed into us as we looked up at the national emblem on the aircraft. We were saved. 1 year later, I sat in a university library, books in front of me. A normal exam tomorrow. My phone buzzed. Group chat. Basketball team won. Celebrate tonight. I've got a date with Gu Ran. I smiled. Outside, students ran and played under the sun. Everything felt normal again. But everyone knew this normal life had been earned through blood and darkness. We lost a lot, but we learned more. How to survive, how to trust, how to protect each other. My phone buzzed again. Mom, what do you want for dinner? I replied. Anything you cook. Mom, you just say that to make me happy. Then, red braised pork? I leaned back, smiling softly. Being alive feels good. Having family feels good. Having brothers feels good. The end of the apocalypse was just the beginning of everything else.